The doctors had to force his lungs to start. His mother, 18 years old, had been in labor for 7 days. That child was Carlos Ray Norris, and here is the thing about the story most people think they know. The world spent 20 years joking that Chuck Norris was immortal, that death was afraid of him, that he had defeated the Grim Reaper in a chess match. On March 19, 2026, 9 days after he posted a video of himself training at 86 years old, he died in Kauai, Hawaii, surrounded by his family. But the real story, the one built from his own autobiography, from martial arts records, from military documents and biographical archives, is stranger than anything the internet invented. This is the story of 13 truths about Chuck Norris that almost nobody knew. Truth number 1, he was not supposed to survive the day he was born. The medical term is cyanosis. His skin was blue. Emergency intervention was required. His mother, Wilma Lee Scarberry, believed for the rest of her life that her son had been saved for a reason. What is documented is the outcome. The boy survived. His real name was never Chuck. The name Carlos Ray Norris appears on every official document from his birth until his military service. The name Chuck came later, given as a nickname by fellow airmen during his time in the United States Air Force in the late 1950s. It was not a stage name, not a marketing decision, not a Hollywood invention. Truth number 3, he joined the military not to fight, but to become a police officer. He wanted to work in law enforcement after his service ended. He was assigned as an air police officer, trained at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, and was then deployed to Osan Air Base in South Korea. He was not looking for a fight, he was looking for a future. Truth number 4 is the one that starts the chain reaction. During a night patrol at Osan, Norris encountered a situation he could not control physically. That moment, according to his own account, was the reason he started training martial arts. He did not want to be in a situation where a firearm was his only option. Then he found Tang Soo Do, a Korean striking art, and trained under Master Jae Chul Shin at a local dojo near the base. He also trained under Grandmaster Do Sik Moon, who later recalled the young American airman as someone who absorbed techniques at an unusual speed. He was 22 years old. He was no longer the shy, directionless kid from Oklahoma. Truth number 5 is the one the myth skips entirely. He lost. When Norris entered the competitive karate circuit in 1964, he was defeated in his first 2 professional matches, losing to Joe Louis and Alan Steen. He lost again to Tony Tulliners. The man who became synonymous with invincibility spent years on the wrong end of decisions. His military discipline, according to the historical record, is what kept him training analytically rather than emotionally, studying each defeat and adjusting. He had previously lost to Louis Delgado in a close decision. He requested a rematch, and by doing so, he claimed the Professional Middleweight Karate World Championship. He held that title for 6 consecutive years, an uninterrupted dominance that Black Belt magazine officially documented. He was the first person inducted into their Hall of Fame. His final competitive record, cited in martial arts archives, stands at approximately 183 wins, 10 losses, and 2 draws. At the height of that run, he was not just competing, he was teaching. He was operating a chain of karate schools that at its peak numbered more than 30 academies. Truth number 6 takes us to a film set in Rome, shot illegally. He wanted a final fight sequence set in the Colosseum. He also wanted the best martial artist he could find to play his opponent. According to accounts from the production, the crew disguised themselves as tourists and smuggled camera equipment into the Colosseum in backpacks. They filmed without authorization and left before anyone could intervene. Bruce Lee died the following year, in 1973. Norris continued in film, carrying forward what he later described as a responsibility to represent the martial arts with authenticity. Accounts cited in biographical analyses of Lee's career suggest that Norris's influence extended beyond their screen collaboration. Lee, who had previously focused his choreography on fast-hand combinations and mid-level kicks, was reportedly persuaded by Norris to incorporate high kicks into his film sequences. What is not debated is that the two trained together extensively, that Norris's specialization in spinning and high-impact kicks was well established, and that Lee's later choreography included techniques that were not prominent in his earlier work. The influence, whatever its precise mechanism, appears to have moved in both directions. Truth number 8. He was also a racing champion. According to specialized biographical sources, Norris won a professional offshore powerboat racing world title at the age of 51, reportedly reaching speeds of around 140 miles per hour. A man who was simultaneously a martial arts world champion and a motorsport world champion. The memes never needed to exaggerate. And then there is the Brazilian connection that almost nobody talks about. Truth number 9. According to multiple biographical analyses of that period in martial arts history, Norris was directly involved in funding and promoting the Machado's early operations. He had trained in Brazilian jiu-jitsu himself and held a black belt in the art. It was a genuine conviction that the ground game represented a missing dimension in combat. The story of Brazilian jiu-jitsu in America is partially a Chuck Norris story, and almost nobody in either community talks about it in the same sentence. In 2004, when Norris published his autobiography, he disclosed something he had kept out of public view for decades. In 1964, while stationed in California, he had a relationship that resulted in the birth of a daughter named Dina. She was raised without knowing her father's identity. In 1990, she wrote him a letter. He integrated her into his family without hesitation. This biographical fact appears in multiple sources, citing the memoir directly, and is described as one of the most emotionally significant turning points in his personal life. Truth number 11. He is the only person known to hold simultaneously the titles of Honorary Texas Ranger and Honorary United States Marine. The Marine title came through a formal ceremony with Marine Corps leadership. Both are documented in press records and official statements from those institutions. Truth number 12 is the one that explains where the last decade of his life actually went. In the period following the revival of Walker, Texas Ranger, and after his last major film appearance, Norris largely withdrew from Hollywood. The couple pursued legal action against pharmaceutical companies. Norris, by his own public statements, became her primary caregiver. A man who had spent 60 years mastering physical combat, said the hardest thing he ever did was navigate a medical system on behalf of someone he loved. He continued training throughout. He wrote, according to the Post's translated text, "I do not get older, I level up. Today I turn 86. 9 days later, he was rushed to a hospital in Kauai following a sudden medical emergency. His family's official statement, published on his Instagram account on the morning of March 20th, confirmed his death the previous day. The statement described him as a dedicated husband, a loving father and grandfather, a remarkable brother, and the heart of our family. Which brings us to truth number 13. The reason the memes worked, the reason the jokes landed for 20 years across every culture and every language that has an internet connection, was not that people believed Chuck Norris was actually superhuman. It was that people believed the jokes were about something real. The template of the Chuck Norris fact required the audience to know, somewhere beneath the absurdity, that this was a man who had genuinely survived a birth with no oxygen. A man who genuinely created his own martial art. A man who genuinely fought on screen with Bruce Lee in a location they were not supposed to be in. The meme did not create the myth. The actual life created the meme. He was shy, he was from nowhere. His lungs did not start on their own, and he spent the next 86 years making sure nobody could ever reasonably bet against him again. He was more interesting than that. And now the joke that was never going to end has ended on a morning in March 2026 on an island in Hawaii with his family around him. It turns out death eventually found its courage after all.